more talk, right? More talk about fighting games and their difficulty, their uniqueness and difficulty, etc., whatever you want to coin it. We're gonna take a look at this. This thread caught my eye. Shout out to Silent Assassin for throwing me this. To be honest, I was reading through this thread, and there's a lot to be said here about this thread. Let me just get right into it, right? So JMCrofts goes on with this here. It says, reminder that the notion that fighting games are uniquely difficult in a way that other genres don't compare to is BS. Which, JMCrofts, if you watch this, I agree with you. I've been saying this for a while. So obviously Incross has this thing here, Brian F teaching SK about perfect parries, which I'm not gonna play the clip. I'll put the thread in the description. You guys can go check that out. I want to get into the meat and the potatoes of this discussion. This clip is irrelevant to this, right? And there's a lot of back and forth between James Chen and Sajam, and that's more or less what I want to get into. There's some other things that are really cool in this thread that are kind of interesting takes on like fighting game difficulty and things like that, but it's mostly when Sajam kind of says his piece is where I'm very interested and where I want to give my opinion on it, because I'm not really gonna jump in this thread. Let's make a video on it. Why not, right? That's why we're here. But I want to start here, right? So we're gonna go here with Sajam piece here, right? I spent the last month watching friends try Deadlock, a shooter MOBA, and boy, I can tell you they are going through it. I think every genre's onboarding is pretty tough, to be honest, and I played them all. I would agree in that regard that yes, onboarding for fighting games in every other genre is tricky, right? That is definitely a thing. Moving forward. So James Chen goes on to say, what's your theory on why fighting games don't stick? Is the team aspect versus 1v1? Why do so fewer people watch fighting games? I just feel there's something psychological about it all, and maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I'm not sure, right? So Sajam goes on to say, I think they're popular enough, to be honest. People like the genre and consume stuff related to it plenty. Very true. You can see that in the content, right? But other factors besides team play is free to play content, variety, frequency of updates, patch timing, genre, variety, etc., etc. I agree. There's a lot of stuff here I agree with, right? James Chen, for someone who's been thinking about this question for decades, I guess I'm just really frustrated and want to have some more concrete reasons. Valid. They're still nowhere near FPS and MOBAs, and my own experience have shown me an unwillingness for people to stick to fighting games. Agreed. So next, James, I'm gonna say I'm probably looking for something that doesn't exist. The reason fighting games don't stick as easily, but the way my obsessive brain works is that I hate that answer. And again, the things I've seen people seem to have a harder time getting fighting games. The numbers can't lie. Sajam goes on to say, I think the reasons I listed are pretty important. Fighting games don't have a product that satisfies the modern gamer in the same way that other genres do, in his opinion. Valid. As someone who plays everything else, it's not even close. Valid. So I think there's other things that are said here in this thread. So we'll kind of take a look at some of the extra things here, but this was a really big stopping point. But just to kind of add more to this, like we'll add, right? So interesting, right? Goes on James Chen. Like what factors? The instant gratification, the social aspect, etc. I'm just curious and I want to pick your brain on this, right? Free to play makes it easier to invest, try lots of games in the same genre. True. Frequent patching, updates, content makes them easier to stick to or come in and game. True. Updates are more often. True. The genres have multiple options free to try with these offerings. True. I have things to say about that, actually. Like, if you want to try Tekken, you're spending that 60 plus season pass money to give it a spin. But if I want to play a battle royale or FPS game, I have 4 to 5 free to play options with fast updates, content to try, and I can swap when I'm sick of one. True. I think if you dabble in other genres, you see what I mean. Lots of the people who try and enjoy fighting games from the slam are like, so do these games ever get new content patches? What's going on? This is taking forever. Fair enough. Fair enough. James, the slam has been great, and a lot of it comes from the social aspect of it. So again, lending credence to the teams versus 1v1 just being the prevailing reason. But that means fighting games don't have enough patches then. even though the FGC dislikes frequent patching, which I agree. We do dislike frequent patches. It honestly kind of sucks. Because when they patch fighting games, it can get really bad, right? They can patch a game to oblivion. Looking at Mortal Kombat games, like Mortal Kombat games get patched to oblivion, in my opinion. But then Sajam goes on to say, not just about patches with updates to characters, but content as well. Valorant as an example, patches with buffs, nerfs less frequently, but has skin bundles or passes, you know, battle passes, and they do maps. True, right? And obviously James Chen agrees, and you know, it pushes for more engagement with the players, more reason to boot it up again, lots of ways to respark interest, which is true, right? Now, he goes on to say he thinks that maybe there's a possible chance that in the fighting game genre, we don't have enough of a budget to push that kind of agenda. I agree to disagree, personally. I think literally just releasing color packs and skin packs for characters or just bundle packs is more than enough for the fighting game genre. You can obviously do more, don't get it twisted, right? Stages, more colors, more costumes, obviously. Truth be told, just at least more stages and costumes is like solid, you know, like, or just colors. You can bring the costumes in as whenever they want, but I think just having color packs is still really good because you get more color sets. Right now, the color sets, specifically in Street Fighter 6 in particular, just kind of, they're cool for what they are, but like I want more personally. So people just go by way of mods and go get color mods there instead of having to wait for them. So them being Capcom. Moving forward, Sajam goes on to say it could be budget focus, anything really, but also it's hard to compare unless you play these other games and can see the difference. I encourage you to try some of these other games. It's the difference in content, but also what the new player experience is like to compare. Now, last part of this with James Chen, I can't play FPS. I get sick. I tried learning Overwatch when it was popular. I wouldn't mind picking up League again, but my experience there was already pretty good. I enjoyed my brief time there. So I kind of want to stop it here and like get to the meat and potatoes of this, right? So I think, in my personal opinion, a lot of what Sajam is saying is, I'd say, fairly accurate. Like, it is kind of difficult to get people to onboard with the fighting games, but truth be told, I don't think onboarding is any easier for any genre, because I know if you try to pick up Apex Legends right about now, I always bring up Apex as one of my favorite shooters, the amount of tech you need to know to play that game is very high. And just literally, like, there was a moment in time where like tap strafing was like the norm. It is pretty much the norm now, but like it became a norm. If you don't know what tap strafing is, it's basically like, it's such a complicated thing to explain, but basically like it's reorienting your jump so that you don't get shot at. Right? So whenever they try to like shoot at you, your bullets, you know, their bullets will miss. So in that regard, right? Not to mention the amount of movement options, movement tech, mantle jump, wall bounce, wall jump, wall clings, wall runs, Pathfinder grapples, Wraith portals, yeah, Horizon Q, Valkyries flying, you know, jump tower. Like, there's all kinds of movement options in Apex. And that's kind of like a barrier of entry, believe it or not. If you can aim, that's one thing, but Apex also, the biggest skill in Apex, other than aim and mobility, is the ability to track your opponent when they're moving, because it's a very fast-paced shooter. So if you can't track when they're strafing and counter strafing, or even when they're in the air, like, you know, those of you that don't know, because I know some of you guys are probably watching me and saying like, oh, I don't know anything about Apex. You know, there's a character named Octane who has a jump pad, basically like it gives him a super jump, and it allows him to also double jump, which also lets you tap strafe. But being able to track while they're in the air is important. Being able to flick up and check the sky. If you hear the jump pad, you hear pshh, it's like a damn parachute. You gotta look up, you know. So there's no amount of things you have to be ready for. And so like the player onboarding for that, like you can queue up with your friends and, you know, never played an FPS game in your life, and you're gonna get shot on, because the reality is the lobbies you're going to be put in if you're playing with your friends are probably going to be higher above your elo. So you're probably going to get stomped on for a bit unless you just start playing by yourself. Then you got to deal with Smurfs, etc., etc. There's Smurfs in every game, so it's whatever. But the point I'm trying to make here is onboarding with any new competitive game is going to have a barrier of entry. That's the bottom line. You can't avoid that. It is very unavoidable no matter what you play. MOBAs, first-person shooters, that new stuff with Deadlock, like, it doesn't matter. Now, granted, Deadlock is kind of a new kind of spin on things, but it doesn't change the fact that it still requires aim and tracking, which means those players from Apex and even, you know, Overwatch, etc., they're all going to be able to play those games and be able to, like, mess you up. Even though everyone's on, like, an even playing field by way of, like, this is a new game, the FPS standard, the fundamentals of first-person shooters still are retained there, despite it having a MOBA backdrop, right? Yeah, it's a League Overwatch hybrid, yeah. So no matter what, that aspect of the games will always be there. Even if you try to play the new Call of Duty, new Call of Duty has that Omni movement, right? And like, it's really sick, honestly. I think that's really cool stuff for the game. However, the barrier of entry for that is still high. Like, there's no, like, you know, in my book, there's no fighting that. Yeah, of course. And then, yeah. And that's my point too, right? Is like, these games, people pick them up and they're already behind, right? League of Legends, game's like, what, a decade old at this point now, if not more? You're picking up League and you're already far behind current players. You probably won't come across them in your games unless they're just downright smurfing, right? But even if you do catch up to some extent, you're still going to be behind the wealth of knowledge that they have. So no matter what, when you're onboarding in a new game, there's still, or a previously released or a already released game, or rather the keyword here is established game, if that's a better word, then you're still going to have that, you know, counterbalance, you know, unless we all start the game at the same time. But the reality is people don't always start all these games at the same time. They start at different times. So if a player starts 2 years into a game, man, I'm getting shat on. Well, duh, you came in 2 years late. There's so much tech you missed out on. There's a lot of history that you're behind on. You know, there's a lot of patchwork you're missing. So, swinging back, do fighting games need all these aspects in which Sajam is saying? Personal opinion, yes, but I also think it's not all that important. And I understand why we want those things, and I don't think that they're not good to have. I think my issue and trepidation is, like, I think we focused so heavily on these things in most recent times that, like, I do think, like, for example, Street Fighter 6 could have more frequent updates in terms of visual content. Again, stages, colors, I'm cool with that. Balance, that's a very tricky and slippery slope because of how much Street Fighter is tied to, unfortunately, fortunately, frame data and the overall system. If there's any major changes to the system, or like any major changes to a character, can really, I won't say make or break them, but it can really and truly, it can either do harm or it can do good, right? Even if the intended change was to do something great or just kind of readjust the character a little bit, all the changes in the game have to be incremental. They can't be too drastic, right? And that's what they've done for the most recent patches. Like, they're good patches by way of not overloading or underselling a kit. Yeah, and I mean, player retention is very important in my opinion, but I think there are other ways that you can improve player retention. I think having, like, to increase player retention, I think it starts in so many different areas, right? So what I mean by that is, okay, let's look at just Sajam Slam, right? It's an event to encourage new people to play fighting games with some of their favorite players from other games, other content creators. Good event. I think we need more events to help supplement where there are no things like content available, because in a way that is content. So what I mean by this is we need more player developer support so that we can offset those things, because things like Sajam Slam have unique things to Street Fighter 6. So it's like, hey, we have these items in the game from the event. there's the events in Japan that also have items in this game as well. We need more of that. You know what I'm saying? Because truth be told, to say that we don't have content, we do. It's just not in the way that people want them on this side. Could also be the same in Japan, but they have so many of those collabs from other animes like Baki the Grappler. You know, what was that? Spy X Family or whatever. They had the Yor costume, which should have been on Chun-Li. That was a missed opportunity. I think most people know that. And things of that nature. You know what I mean? So those are things that can happen. Things that already have happened in particular. But just to bring it back towards having events with player developer support, with stuff, you know, in-game items. Like SNK was doing that when they were promoting other events under the SNK umbrella. Right? You have an event, let us know, we'll help you promote it. Cool. We need more of that. Right? I think if we have more community events that are backed by the developer, it's a lot easier for them to kind of give out memorabilia to the creators to give out to the people who are watching. It gives more cadence. It will bring more to the game and bring more eyes on the game, and then maybe encourage more, not just more player retention, but the chance to be a part of that thing. You watching it, you're already a part of history, right? But if you're able to participate in it, then it opens up even more doors. Then it's like, you know, dang, you know, I watched insert my favorite content creator here do this, man, I'd love to be a part of that, or like, you know, support them in their journey or whatever. You know, like stuff like that is good, you know. And I think if we have more of that, I truly believe that's where we need to go. Because things like I said, you could do, I don't know, I'll just for the sake of, because this is my video, right? You know, Kensou Slam, and then we have, yeah, I don't know, I wouldn't use Slam, but I don't know, something, you know, Snapback, we do this, you know, we do this and that. We're working with Capcom, Capcom's promoting it, blah, 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 blah. We got these commentators, blah, 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 blah. We got this and that. It's like the stuff that they're already doing in Japan. Kensou Summit, that sounds kind of cool. Like they already have this kind of stuff happening in Japan. That's why I'm just like, we need to do more of that here. But like, I think using the current talent, I think we need to encourage more people who actually want to play fighting games. I think what makes me very weary in some cases about Sajam Slam is like, do these people actually give a shit to play fighting games? What makes it more interesting in Japan is those players, from what it looks like, I don't know, because it's a difference in culture, they care more about the genre on that side of the world. On this side of the world, we're trying to get people to care. So it's like, in some ways, pulling teeth. It's like, I get it. Can you teach, you know, a Valorant or Overwatch, League of Legends, you know, or a VTuber how to play a fighting game? True. Some of that does seem a little daunting and does seem a little sketch. But I think the willingness is the important part. How we integrate it into the culture over here. Do we need the FPS players? Do we need, technically speaking, yes. They have larger platforms than we do in the fighting game space, you know. But I think obviously what's good about this is you get that level of talent, and then you get our talent to work with them to be something. But I think the other part is to do a cross promotion of that within that community, so that they can see us help. Like, we help them and they help us, and then there's a correlation, and then there's more of a handshake there, handshake tag, than there is just redoing it where it's very one-sided. I think that's another thing, right? But to start, things like Sajam Slam are like a big start to me. I truly, now granted, this is just a me thing. I think battle passes and all stuff like that are always going to be great. Updates are always going to be great. Content always going to be great. But I think we need to also dig within the community to get more community involvement. With more community involvement, we'll be fine. Because you can't sit here and tell me community involvement doesn't matter when things like, you know, games like Melee are still alive, and it's all because of the community. Like, let's be real, HBox wouldn't be that big at all. And I'm not hating on the guy, but let's be real, that game is old as fucking dirt. And if that game did not have the backing of the community, not Nintendo, once again, not Nintendo, the community supported that shit that dude would not have that platform. All those Smash players who play Melee, they would not have that platform that they have. But because community supported it so much and did not want to see it go, that's why they're there. That's why they're in the positions that they're in. You know? Who knows the difference in... I'm not saying HBox would be bad, but who knows what would happen if he had to move on to Ultimate, like how we have to move to different fighting games, right? Like, if you're a Street Fighter player, you kind of have to keep up with the series if you want to stay quote-unquote relevant. You can't play... For example, Street Fighter 4 is not relevant. No one's watching Street Fighter 4 streams or content like that. Nobody. They might have a tournament for it at an event, but that's as good as it gets. Now, granted, Street Fighter 4 could come back if there was some kind of community support, or if the game even got rollback, which would have been nice, but obviously that's not the case. But, you know, that all, but you guys see where I'm coming from though, right? Like, with enough community support, you can get that kind of traction that you want, which doesn't involve the developers. But in this case, in this case, since Capcom was willing to put, you know, those badges and stuff like that from the Sajam Slam into the game, that means there's more room for other people to do stuff like that. You know? I'm just saying. And even if you can't get it into the game like that, it doesn't matter. It's just one extra thing. But it'd be great for history purposes, right? That we got more people involved, we got more things involved with it there. And obviously you need a good platform. All it would take is just Capcom to support it. Or, you know, I'm just saying Capcom in the sense because this is the last thing that happened with Sajam Slam, right? But Bandai Namco, Capcom, ArcSys, any of the big developers, as long as they show that community support, and I'm telling you, man, memorabilia goes a long way, man. You'd be surprised. Even if you don't get like getting the stuff solidified into the game, that's huge. Most developers will just give you like, all right, here's like a keychain, here's some towels, you know, here's a, you know, a plushie or 5. Let's give these out to these guys. We give out our memorabilia to our, like, you know, people who participated, and then for people in the stream chat, we'll give them these things for memorabilia sake, and we'll send them out, blase blase, whoop de whoop. That would tend to be as good as it gets. But the fact that we got this far, we're making waves. But we can get more people to watch them. We can get more people to watch, we can get more people to play. But I think the other side to this too, because I do want to make sure I provide this as well, so we can see two sides of the coin. I think it's also okay if people just don't want to play fighting games. I think there are a lot of people who appreciate the spectacle of fighting games and just like watching them. That's okay. We don't need everyone to play fighting games. It would be nice, right, for people to all appreciate the genre. I think in my book, all I'm looking for is people to appreciate the genre and the craft required to play them at the high level. That's it. As long as you're enjoying it in that regard, you know, it's kind of like basketball. A lot of people love basketball but can't play it for shit, so they just watch sports themselves. You know what I mean? That's it. Shinobi Summit, word. I'm just saying, like, not everyone needs to play. Like, in some cases, and this might sound harsh, but I'm just presenting the other side of the coin here, so don't take it out of context, right? Like, even if, like, there's some people that don't care about a Valorant player playing fighting games. There's some people that don't give a shit about an Overwatch player playing fighting games, etc., etc. You know, but the spectacle of it is what makes it cool, because there's stakes, there's bigger names, but like, it's also okay if they don't want to play. Because I've already seen stuff with like VDX, where it's like, hey, I'm not gonna stream Street Fighter like that no more, blah 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 blah. They're getting backseated a lot, which I'll kind of talk about that briefly. You know, I've seen it on Twitter, of course, because here we are, right? But I've seen so many of them say like, oh, we're not streaming this game anymore because it's at the other. So many people are watching. It's like, people are watching because they want to see your freaking journey. You know how many, like, I want to point this out, right? And just hear me out for a moment. I'm not complaining, but I want people to recognize the reality of a lot of other fighting game streamers who have done more than those people have, right? They already have a platform, right? From the previous games that they come from, right? The average fighting game player can barely muster up like maybe 30 people to even watch them play, you know? And you would assume when people who win tournaments, they'll get like thousands and thousands of views. It does not work like that. You know what I'm saying? But these people who already have platforms are getting twice the viewership because people are just interested in watching their journey. You know, some of them are trolls, obviously. Some of them don't care if they play. Some of them want to see them fail, etc., etc. there's different reasons why people watch, right? But for what it's worth, right? Let's keep it on a positive note. Like, people just want to enjoy and watch the journey, right? And have fun along the way with them. You know, of course they're gonna try to backseat and like, hey, try to help them out as much as they can, because guess what? When they're watching you play your main game, they can't fucking tell you shit. You know, if you're playing like Overwatch and you're freaking cold at it, or Valorant or League and you're just cold at it, like, they're not gonna tell you shit. You already made content on it. You have 1,300, 1,400, fucking 3,000, fucking 1,000,000 hours under the fucking game after XYZ amount of years. No one's gonna tell you shit. Nobody. They might give you some advice and shut up. Mod, ban them. Now, of course, people who like play fighting games and see them playing, it's like, yeah, they're giving up. If you think about it, they're not watching the other people they would normally watch just to go watch them, to check out the journey, to see what's happening on that side of things. You see what I'm saying? It's telling a story. Like, people are here for your story, you know? So to me, it's kind of like, almost in a sense, and don't get me wrong, I'm not mad at it. It feels a little ungrateful, just a little, because there are players who've won tournaments and like that don't get anywhere near that kind of viewership. You know, they're actual fighting game players that don't get that. I watched it firsthand. I ain't gonna say no names, but I have seen it myself. There are some Evo champions that have not seen any kind of growth spurt in their numbers. You know what I'm saying? Not even in their actual content. Barring if they do make content. But point is, and I want to just add to that, just to make sure that there's a little bit of extra here. I've seen other celebrities who are well known, even bigger YouTubers. They don't get the volume of numbers of their actual YouTube views than they would when they're streaming. Just throwing it out there, right? Just so there's no taking out of context here. There's no misunderstandings, basically. So yeah, like I said, from my perspective, it just seems a little ungrateful. Maybe I might be seeming a little facetious here or whatnot. I understand everyone's experiences are different, but like, a lot of people are fighting for viewership for these games, and we want to see them grow bigger. And it's like, your platform is helping our games grow. So like, it might be a little insufferable. I guess it's my message to them, right? If they watch it, don't take it the wrong way when I'm saying it's like, it seems a little ungrateful. It's just, our genre doesn't get, you know what I'm saying, 20K steady up until like 3 a.m. and I'm in CST, right? We're not steady 20, 80K in CST, you know what I'm saying? We're like 10 at best, maybe 5 on like a really bad day. You know what I mean? And then when Asia starts to stream, then it can pop back up. You know what I mean? Even higher than what we have normally. More often than not, a tournament has to happen for us on average. Like, listen to what I'm about to say so you guys understand part of this too, right? It takes a tournament for us to get bigger numbers. And for what it's worth, I'm gonna just throw it out here because it is a fact. Fight it, argue it if you want. Maximilian starts streaming. Whatever game is in the directory that was like at maybe like 10K, and now it's gonna jump up to 20K. Lickety split, you know? So without tournaments or Max, or in Japan's case, Shaka, and even then, even without Shaka, Japan's freaking numbers are still freaking great. Again, strictly on Street Fighter, right? So, I don't know. We want more people to watch. We want more personalities. And I just feel like if we have that cross-pollination with platforms, from like the player coaches to, you know, we'll just say the player coaches from the FGC, and then the talent, right? As long as there's good cross-pollination between them, everyone can grow happily and be happily ever after, right? But I don't know. I feel like that's what you want. You want to have, like, that's the point of this. To me, that's part of the point of this, right? Again, this is just speaking on Slam and these events. You want the cross-pollination to be able to work in your favor for the games. Because we already know the first-person shooters, MOBAs, they're already going to do their thing regardless, you know? We're the ones trying to, like, gain more. So, like, if we keep that good, if everything is all within good faith, then there's no way we lose. We just grow. And we grow not just, I want to make it clear that we're growing the competitive scene of quote-unquote esports, right? Fighting games are esports, so like, let's keep growing. They just got thrown into the Olympics, you know? This is kind of going on a tangent here. Don't worry, I'm gonna come back, but some stuff I've been having on my chest, I just want to get off, right? Like, we're going into the Olympics with fighting games. Would I try for it? Why not? I mean, why not? You know, why would I not try? You know, that's history in the making. Like, people don't understand, like, there's history in the making happening here with fighting games going forward from Street Fighter 6 to Tekken 8. Like, this new gen of fighting games is going down in history even more than it was before. So to me, again, I love the genre. I want you guys to know that are watching this. I love the fighting game genre, like, to death. Like, I love this genre. It's my favorite competitive genre. I try everything else because I want to understand it and see what I can learn from those who apply to fighting games and vice versa. A lot of my fighting game knowledge I apply to other games and they work pretty well. Obviously not one-to-one, but there are similar concepts, which again, I can talk about on a whole other video. But, you know, I just want to see more cross-pollination. Cross-pollination with talent, cross-pollination with communities, so that competitive gaming, not just one genre or two genres, I want them all to grow. We already know MOBAs are going to do their thing. You know, obviously Riot has mad money to toss at stuff. Valve now with Deadlock, they got money to freaking blow. Overwatch still holding it down. New coming Marvel Rivals. Like, there's a lot of stuff on the way. So to me, it's like, they might be different games, but I'd rather just have, like, I see it from the standpoint of the competitive HUD, right? I see it from the competitive esports view. I don't see it as, oh, this is just this subsection and this subsection alone. Like, all of it. Because like I said before, if we're in the Olympics, I mean, what more is there to say? Like, we're doing good, we're eating, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I just want more for the genre. And to come back to everything full swing and this discussion between Sajam and James, because I know I had a little tangent there, so sorry for the sidebar, Lord, the little detour there. I just feel like player retention can happen in more than one way than just having all these battle passes, colors. It's just community and developer. And if we can have that handshake and we can make things pop and make things move together and have that level of, I guess, because you have to look at it from the other standpoint, right? When a player, right, or a gamer sees this kind of handshake between developers, that's huge. Now at that point, it's up to us to help blast that shit, right? Get the media outlets to talk about it, show more about it, like, get it out there. It's not just if you know, you know. That's the other problem, right? A lot of problems with fighting games tends to be if you know, you know type deals. Yeah, we're doing better by being in things like the Game Awards and stuff like that, showing off trailers there, etc., all the trade shows. Beautiful, we're doing great there. I think using the media outlets to kind of cover it will be good too, right? For what it's worth, IGN covers it, you know, Destructoid covers it, freaking Kotaku, for whatever it's worth, covers it. Getting the media outlets to cover it is important, because when they're talking about it, people who don't know about it will now know. And if another one happens, it's like Evo. Like, people know about Evo, so it's like, let's push more than just Evo. Let's push Combo Breaker. Let's push this tournament. Let's push that tournament. Let's push Sajam Slam. Let's push, you know, Kensou Shinobi Summit. Whatever. Push. It's about the push. Work with the developers. Hey, help us push. Hey, on your Twitter, push this. Hey, content creators, talk about it. Let's push. Let's universally advertise. Now, granted, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of asking. That's a lot of asking power. You're asking for a whole, that's a powerhouse move in terms of advertisement, especially going unpaid. But what it does for the genre is huge. It's like people just talking about the Super Bowl. Hey man, you seen Super Bowl? You know motherfuckers gonna make videos and talk about Super Bowl or like the NBA Finals, XYZ, blase, whoop-de-whoop. They're gonna be out here doing things. They talk about it in the barbershop. They talk about it here. They talk about it there. It's not like gaming isn't a norm. And it's not like competitive gaming isn't a norm now either. Right? So if you have those things in place, it helps subside where the lack of patches, the lack of color skins, the lack of new skins and costumes, stages, you know, DLC characters, character balance. That will help subside. That will help tide people over, because that's something to watch. and it's supported across the board. So I think that's the avenue that we need to look at moving forward, right? I understand patches might, like was said in this thread here, like, you know, some of the talent is looking at like, where's the patch work? Wait for the next event. Let's get you into the next Sajam Slam or something like that. Like, now they're all going to TwitchCon. Man, I'd love to go to TwitchCon. Holy moly. Maybe next year. I don't know. We'll see. But I say that every year, so don't mind me. That's just a, yeah. Anyway, the fact that the next step to this is to go to TwitchCon, that's huge. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like this is what I'm getting at. Like, there's so much that's like, this is already happening. So then it leads me back into now James Chen, right? Because I do want to speak on him as well. Like, I think he's like, I respect and I know where he's coming from, because I know he loves the genre just as much as I do, and he wants to see it work. I think, I don't know, I just feel like I need to sit down with these dudes and start just picking their brains and start like poking and prodding at these things, because I just don't think these things get talked about. I mean, otherwise, like, what's the purpose of the Sajam Slam? It's to help people get into fighting games, right? So, or help show the journey of what it takes to be a fighting game player, you know? But I don't know, man. There's just so much, man. There's just so much. There's so much that can be done. That's just how I feel. But without going in circles, I do think that they bring up a very interesting discussion, and I'm glad to kind of just share my piece on it. I'll stop here because I can go on and on. So let me know how you guys feel about this in the comments below. Talk to me how you guys feeling about what Sajam and James Chen got to say in this thread. I'll link it in the description below. You guys can go check it out yourselves if you want to have some kind of input on it, if you want to actually input in the thread. Otherwise, talk to me in the comments. We can make a conversation. Let's start a conversation. XYZ, whoop-de-woo. You know what it is. You know how I do. I'll talk to you guys in the comments. You already know. So yeah, I'm gonna get up out of here. You already know what it is. Deuces.